we're sitting right there in the middle of an open seat. I picked up the phone. I called Kathy at work, and I said, I want to tell you something. I said, I believe the Lord saying this is time to go. It's time to jump into this race. And so she was, as she always has said, she says, let's go. And we jumped into it. And I didn't know how my church would react, because it was a pretty good sized church by then, and we were real busy and we were growing. And I remember calling the deacons together and talking to them about it. But I made sure from the very beginning that they understood that I wasn't asking them for permission to run. I was sharing with them my heart. I was sharing with them what I thought the Lord was doing. And I told them, I said, listen, brother, if I need to resign, then I'll resign, because I've never had a bad church. I've never had a bad experience. I've never been run off from anywhere. My deacons in my churches have always been my best friend. And I told them, I said, if you think this is going to cause some problems, I'll resign quietly and I'll move on. But I want you to know that this is where I feel like the Lord is leading us. So I wrote a letter the next day, and I put it in the mail on Thursday afternoon. And then Kathy and I did something else. We took off for the beach for the weekend. We wanted all the church members to get that letter to let them know I'm running for the Georgia State House. And we wanted them to be able to come to church on Sunday and moan and groan and gripe and fuss about it if they wanted to. But we just didn't want to be there to hear it. And so we went and spent the weekend at the beach. And I want to tell you something. Those folks came together and they talked about it. And they became our greatest supporters. Just today, we went by there after lunch. They had homecoming. And we went by there. And I just stood in the receiving line almost, talking to folks, shaking hands, and saying, Mike, we're praying for you. And these are the folks that are our strongest supporters and our base for the last several years. When I ran for that office, I really didn't even know that the House Republican Caucus up in Atlanta had already picked somebody for that spot. And it surprised a lot of folks in Thomas County when the preacher jumps up and said, I'm going to run for the State House. They expected some lawyer to run, or some banker to run, or some business person, or some farmer, but they don't think about a preacher running for office very much. And so a lot of people will say, I don't know what to think about this. But not knowing, I didn't, that they'd already picked another guy in Thomas County that they knew was going to be the one that would run. After I qualified, he qualified just a few weeks later. He was a good guy. He was Thomasville born and raised and been there all his life from an affluent family. And he told people, he said, I don't think it's going to be that difficult. All I got to do is be the old Baptist preacher from Colquitt. You know what? We went out and we worked hard. We found out that people just really want to know that you're a real person. I remember getting I've had a couple of knee problems and injuries, and broke my ankle in 8 places one time. So it's kind of hard for me to walk long distances sometimes. I'd get a golf cart. I'd drop that golf cart off at these subdivisions, and I'd go door to door in the golf cart, shaking hands, knocking on doors, asking for votes. But we outworked it. And we won that primary with about 60% of the vote, and then we won the general election with 65% of the vote. And then I tell people we had a party. As much as you can party in a church fellowship hall. We had a great time in the Lord. And I've been privileged to serve 3 terms in the Georgia House, and I'm finishing up my last term. Now, during those 6 years, I've developed a reputation for representing the people who sent me up there to Atlanta. I represented them first. See, I learned real quick, if I was going to represent the people in Thomas and Grady counties, the thing I had to learn first was how to tell the Speaker of the House no. How to tell the governor no. How to say, I don't care if it's good for somebody else or somewhere else. If it's not good for the people who elected me and sent me up there, then I'm not going to vote for it. And so I've had that reputation of representing my district first. Which brings me to where I am today, running for Congress. I was just minding my own business down in St. Augustine last year. Had my great children and my grandchildren down there. Kathy has 2 sisters. In the beginning, 25 years ago, it was just us 3 couples and her mom and stepdad that used to go down there, and we'd go on vacation. There was 8 of us. Then we started having kids, and then they started having kids, and now there's about 25 of us.